Alright, welcome everyone. My name is Marcus and welcome to a video on 3D printing in Brazil. This is going to talk about what 3D printing is, how it's being used by the people in Brazil, and how it relates to some of the SDGs. So let's get right into it. First off, what is 3D printing? 3D printing is the technology that creates three-dimensional objects from a digital model by using materials such as plastic or resin to build the objects layer by layer. We've probably all seen it. It looks like a little printer, but instead of printing on paper, it prints items in a three-dimensional space using that plastic or resin. So that's what 3D printing is, and it has a lot of useful applications that we'll talk about. But who is using 3D printing in Brazil? In Brazil, teachers are using 3D printing in the classroom. Hospitals are adopting 3D printing. Mining companies are also using 3D printing, as well as many e-commerce stores. Now, people in Brazil sort of had the freedom to make whatever they want using the 3D printing and the modeling. And so many e-commerce stores are making custom items that people are developing and designing themselves. And so that's creating a lot of good opportunities for people in Brazil. So this is who's using 3D printing in Brazil. But where is 3D printing being used in Brazil? In Brazil, 3D printing is primarily being used in larger cities such as Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. These large cities are sort of like creative hubs in Brazil and use 3D printing in the middle of all these creations. So these cities in Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, these larger areas, think of them as more like Silicon Valley. This is where your tech hubs and creative spaces in Brazil are. So these are where a lot of the 3D printing is going to be located at, but it's used all over the country really. But why exactly are they using 3D printing? Here's a little SWOT analysis. The strengths of 3D printing are that it's practical for pretty much every field. Hospitals can use it, schools can use it, even mining companies can use it too. And there's a large market size, so that's a big strength for 3D printing. The weaknesses include limited skilled labor and material constraints. That limited skilled labor, people need to learn how to use the 3D modeling software in order to be able to make items with 3D printers, and so there's a bit of a skill gap, and then material constraints as well, where if you can't find enough resources for the plastic and resin, you're going to have a tough time. So that's a weakness as well. But there is opportunities, which is growing market demands. Pretty much every market, like we said, is able to use 3D printers, and so the demand is constantly growing all the time. Lastly is the threats. There are regulatory risks and copyright concerns. Typically that copyright concerns where should anyone be able to take the design someone else has made and print it themselves? What's the rules there? Now, how does 3D printing help with the 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals? The first way it helps is through quality education, which is SDG number 4. 3D printing is being used in Brazil's classrooms to educate students on the 3D modeling process and the design process. So it's letting them get hands-on and learn about all these different things. It lets them learn how to use materials, how to use the software, how to even fix machines when they break and things like that. So it's helping with the quality education in Brazil. Now the next one is the Industry, Innovation, and Infrastructure SDG, which is number 9. 3D printing is basically used in every market and every field in Brazil to improve the infrastructure and innovation. All kinds of technology now that people want to make themselves, they'll use 3D printing somewhat in that process. So it's helping the SDG number 9. Now lastly, we're going to have a 2 truths and a lie for you to come up with. Let's see if you can figure it out. I'm going to read through them and then let you pick which one you think is the lie. So the first option is Brazilian researchers have developed a low-cost bioprinter using recycled materials to produce lab-grown tissue. Brazil became the first country in South America to 3D print an entire residential neighborhood using concrete printers. Or lastly, a Brazilian company partnered with the oil and gas industry to use metal 3D printing for producing critical offshore equipment. Give you a chance to figure it out. And the lie is that second option. Brazil is not the first country in South America to 3D print an entire residential neighborhood using concrete printers. No country has done this yet. There are a lot of countries who are using 3D printers in construction, but it's not something that's been done in Brazil. But it's pretty cool, and the other options are really great as well. So that's all we have for you. I hope you learned something about 3D printing, as well as how it relates to Brazil and the 17 SDGs. Thank you for listening.